how it plays out. All right, let's go to our man from the Inquirer. Does such a fabulous job covering the Sixers, and it was a thrilling series. Here to put a bow on it all, our friend Keith Pompey, Keith Aru. What a wild night that capped a wild series.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? Because at first I'm like, yo, man, are they gonna get boat raced? I mean, the way it started out. And then they came back and it was wild, man. It was bizarre. But the thing that alarmed me about that one was, I'm gonna be real, I was concerned with how Tobias was gonna play. And the reason being is, Joel didn't really have his offensive game going in game 5, and you knew he was going to come back. So it was going to be one of those things where, how is Tobias going to find his offense? Because they're not going to go to him like they did the last time, because it's going to be about Joel. He's going to establish himself. And I felt like that was a tough pill to swallow. And another thing is, Buddy Hield has been struggling mightily, but when he scored 17 points in the first half, I was a little shocked that they didn't go to him at all in the third quarter.
I know, not a minute in the third quarter, Keith. And what was Nick's reasoning there? Because I look at it and go, dude, like you got to come back to him.
Yeah. Now the thing is, and I was a little because you know how it is. Everything happens, and you used to be a report. You used to rewrite. So you like on deadline, you get there, you're like, hey, did anybody ask him? And they're like, no. Now the only thing that I can look at is, Tobias is their guy. They want to make sure that he gets his touches, he does things, but he played like 10 minutes and some change in that quarter and didn't even attempt a shot. So you look at that and you say to yourself, like, Nick probably had it where Buddy is going to be the starter of the second, and he's going to also be the starter of the fourth. But it comes a point in time when you look at a guy who's giving you stuff and he's playing well, and that lineup played well, to where I felt like, at least if you're midway through the quarter and you're not getting any production from him, because you didn't get anything from Kyle Lowry either. So if you didn't get any production from those two, you got to bring Buddy in.
What's odd is, and you're right, I mean, between the two of them, 0 for 4. I mean, Tobias takes 2 shots. Like, that's outrageous. Yeah. You take 2 shots. But here's the thing. In the middle of the third quarter, they're up 10. Like, that's, like, you have a handle. This team, they need to learn how to win. If one thing from this series, look, they competed. Unlike the previous elimination games where they kind of quit, they played hard. They played hard the whole game. They erased that big deficit, like you said, because I thought the same thing. They were going to get boat raced, and they turned it around quick. But they got to figure out how to win. Like, when you're up 10, you got to learn how to stop on somebody's throat. And they just let him back in the game, Keith.
Exactly. And if you notice, like, if this was the first time that they were actually getting blown out, right, in the game. But most of this series has been what you said. Like, the Sixers will get up to a double-digit lead, and then all of a sudden, the Knicks will come back. Brunson will make some shots. Hart will make some shots. DiVincenzo would make some shots, and they kept coming back. And you are right. That's the difference with this team. It's like they don't have that. I'm not going to say they don't have a killer instinct, but it just seems like they don't know how to put a team away yet. And it's always like self-inflicted mistakes. It's like, they're coming down and you're like, no, don't take that shot. It's too early. Or don't make that pass. So you see like the bad shots. You see the costly turnovers. And then next thing you know, the Knicks kept getting momentum and getting in the game. So they got to correct some things. And I get it. I know that, last night everybody was talking about the optimism of, the cap space of Maxey ascending and this and that. And, Joel's going to get healthy and all this. But to me, when I hear stuff like that, I'm listening to your show, watching the show, and I'm saying, but we've heard this before. You
Uh-huh.
know what I mean? It's always been the same thing. Like next year is going to get better, and I'll get it. Granted, they have Nick Nurse his first year, but it just scares me because they keep making the same mistakes, no matter whose name is on the back of that jersey.
Well, I mean, I think we agree. Like this is it, right? Like so. Couple things. One, this is Embiid's, it's stretch run. All right, like this is it. Like we know about the annual injuries and everything else. Well, this is it. Like he's still a dominant player. You saw it last night. One leg, Bell's
Yeah,
palsy. I mean, he was dominant last night. He
yeah,
played his heart out last night. You knew Maxey would come down, right? Like after
yeah.
that, when he's playing Reggie Miller, he has to come down. So
Of
he
course.
comes down last night. You said it earlier. He's not going to replicate that. But he's got to figure out, and he's young, and he will. He this is his first year as Embiid's co-star. He's got to figure out how to navigate a game when he's not hot. Like that's a big deal. Like because
Yeah,
his basketball IQ is still not a
yeah.
lead guard,
Hmm.
veteran guard, and I think that's just from youth. But he's got to learn that, and then you need somebody to kind of show them where to go. Like Keith, I bring up LeBron, right? Because I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he will. If there's some way to get him, at least he's a guy that can show how to win because they missed that. There was a play last night. It was a campaign was in a game, and listen, he gave you nice energy, so I'm not picking on him, but it's a screen and roll. You got to give the ball back to Joel. And he took a bad shot. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Give the ball back to Embiid. He's the one. And they needed that. It's things like that they have to clean up.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And see, the one thing, Mike, that I mean, because I called you Mike, my bad. But I'm just got. But
No.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. That the thing is that people don't understand is a reason why some of these guys were available. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, I like campaign. I like what he brings. He does a lot. But there's a reason why a lot of these guys were available, getting at the minimum. Teams were trading them at the end of their contracts because they didn't want to re-sign them, and they wanted to get other guys in there to thinking they're going to help them for a playoff push, right? So that's the one thing. Now the another thing is when you talk about a guy like LeBron, we were talking about that last night, and it makes a lot of sense from a standpoint where if you're LeBron and you really want to win a championship, you look at everybody say, well, look at the Lakers. Well, believe me, they don't have the money with him and AD to do anything. And then people are like, yeah, but what about the Sixers? Well, if you look at the Sixers, if you're LeBron, you can say to yourself where you go and say, guess what? I'm all about winning the chip. I got Maxi, who's a part of my organization, right? The coach is part of Clutch Sports organization
Yep.
as well. And then you got Joel Embiid. So it could be me. I don't have to exert as much energy, but I know if I'm on that team, we can come out of the East. We can contend with Boston. And what happens is I'm just going to be able to be the teacher, do whatever I can, and get things done, right? So at first you say it doesn't make sense. Now it could be one of those things where a lot of times you got guys like LeBron and them who are going to go say they're going to go to a certain team because they have all the cap space available, and the Sixers are the sexy choice because of Embiid and Maxey. But at the same time, I agree with you 100%. He would help in the maturation process because the thing that Maxey did is the shot wasn't falling, and there was times now he got it together in the fourth quarter, but there was times when he was going down the court 100 miles an hour trying to do these loop-de-doop-dees, and the ball was going off the backboard, and then he wasn't drawing fouls, he wasn't getting anything, and they were bad possessions. Now again, I understand it. He's a scorer. He's a leader. He wants to get those points. But at the same time, it hindered the team. And like if you look at LeBron, if they can get him, I mean, I honestly think that Embiid will still be the guy, right? LeBron is going to be the veteran that's going to make everything together, be a leader on the floor. And I also think it's going to help Maxi's maturation, and then you can get some other people in there with it. I really like the way that sounds, man. And I heard y'all talking about it. I mean, I really like the way that sounds.
And think about it, Keith, like the way you brilliantly encapsulized what Maxi's struggles were last night, right? Like perfect. When he needs to be at time, and it's hard to do this, right? It's hard to be a true combo guard and to wear the two hats, right? When you have to wear the hat of the scorer, be on my back like he did at Madison Square Garden, or when you have to be a lead guard and make sure those possessions aren't wasted. And that's key. So LeBron can play, you can be the lead guard off the wing like he does, right? And he can, so when Maxey would work perfectly. So the ball's still in his hands predominantly, but especially in those moments, LeBron becomes the lead guard and he becomes the creator for the offense. I just think the fit is perfect, and I think you're spot on when if you look at it from his standpoint and go, all right, I got to get one more title. This is what it is. And he tweeted about Tyrese the other night at the Garden. I mean, he's this guy. I mean, he's fully aware. He flirted here before. You know better than anybody. How close was it before? Now, he still had unfinished business in L.A., and he was going to go to L.A., but I was told that he seriously, he vetted Philadelphia. It was never going to happen, but he vetted it, and he kind of liked what he saw.
Yeah, he did. But the thing that messed me up with that whole thing was, when the ownership group flew out there to meet him, and he didn't show up for the meeting.
Yeah.
Instead, they met with Rich Paul. Yeah. So when I heard all that vetting stuff, when they went there and he didn't show up, I was like, oh,
okay, yeah.
okay. Yeah, okay. But,
how serious are we talking here?
Yeah,
if you don't even come to the meeting.
If you notice, then the next day he got what he wanted from the Lakers. So, it is what it is. And again, LeBron is LeBron. He's going to get paid. He's going to do whatever. But I honestly think the Lakers, I don't see them winning the championship. But I also think that he wants to win a championship. But I think that this would give him the best opportunity to win a championship if he came east and played for the Sixers, because there's some other teams that just don't have the cap space. Now, again, who knows? He loves it out there. And like you say, things happen. I mean, think about it. This time last year, James Harden thought he was going to be a Houston Rocket, right?
Yes.
Everybody in the league thought he was going to be a Houston Rocket. So things tend to change. But at the same time, I think with the whole thing with LeBron too is, what is Bronny going to do? You know what I mean? Like what type of options are there for him? Now I will tell you this: if Bronny transfers to a Philadelphia school, you best believe that LeBron is coming. Or, if the Sixers say, hey, we got a second round pick or a late first round pick, you just never know. But at the same time, I do think that would be a great option for both parties. The only thing is, do you want to move from LA to come back east?
But you know what it is. You're not really moving, right? Like he keeps everything out there, and he comes here and he's got a spot for 2 years while he wins a title. I mean, especially now, everybody's bi-coastal. You can do whatever you want. Yeah,
like Nico Batum. Like nowadays, I like Nico, but it's funny whenever you see him walking in shoot around or like in the locker room, he's always like FaceTime. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll leave you alone. You're talking to your kids who live in LA. You know what I mean? So like, you're right. You can, you get to see him every day. I mean, virtually, but you still get to see him.
Yeah, it basically, what you do, if you're LeBron, you go, I'm going to play another 2 years. Hey, it's just like you're going on a work kind of thing project, and then you'll pop home when you can. And during the season, there's always opportunities. And like, how it is. If he says, hey, listen, I want to go back west. I want to go out west for 2 weeks in February. All right. With a knee. in quotation marks. You go back to LA for 2 weeks, do your thing, and then you come back. Like, all we really need you, like if I'm the Sixers, like all we really need you for is the playoffs. Like that's really it.
Exactly. I
So,
agree. I agree. To what
so
James Harden did.
yeah, exactly. You were going, you want to go to Vegas, you want to go to Houston, the whole thing. Hey, the one thing that was bothersome too is the Villanova kids took their heart. They were tough. Brunson was incredible. Hart with the dagger. DiVincenzo last night. Like that's something that you can't teach, right? Like that's something that they need to get that kind of attitude here.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Not at all. And it's funny because, there is a huge Villanova presence with the Sixers. Like, there's people on the business side, you got the coaches, whatnot. And they all talk about these kids, and the three, Hart and DiVincenzo, and they talk about how when they got there, they had to be gritty and play like defense. Like, I mean, they had to do it gritty. If not, they weren't playing at all. That's just how Jay Wright was, right? So you look at it and you say to yourself, like, because no offense to those guys, but when they were with other teams, they weren't exactly like, I got a game plan for Josh Hart, right? But when you have three of them together like dogs, it makes it harder. Now, the one thing is, I will say this, and you notice this is real, like from your football friends and when you covered baseball and all that other stuff, like let a guy say that I wanted to play for that team, or you played for them in the past and they traded you, right? There's all type of ammunition. And like Josh Hart, I remember he wanted to play for the Sixers. It was close to Villanova, and it was close to DC. He wanted to play for them. They took and drafted a drafting stash ahead of him, and then they traded the dude, right, who didn't make it. And he never let that go. And he even told the New York media that. He
Yeah.
says, I want to kill them because they didn't draft me.
Yeah.
And I'll never let that down. So I think that when you have the grit, and that's something that the Sixers need to get from their players, and you also have that motivation. And like, let's face it, dude, they won more big games in the Wells Fargo Center than the Sixers did when they were playing there, right, at that time. So they feel like that's home. This is home to us. This is our spot. You know.
You know what? That's such a great point, man. It really is. Yeah. So not only did the Knicks fans take over Sunday, not as much last night, but those players made it their home. Now, it's a great point, and it also illustrates, my God, the frustration over the last decade with the post process, and you could have drafted Josh Hart, right? I don't even want to go and talk about who's in Brooklyn right now for the millionth time that you had and traded. Like those mistakes, man, they just compounded. Oh God, you lived it. You saw them all.
Yeah, that was crazy. And that was the craziest one because he was drafted, and as he was walking to the interview room, the beat writers who covered the team was chatting with him, and this guy was so excited, and he was like, "Oh," and we were like, "Yo, we're looking forward to covering you," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to," and one of your, Devon, that's his cousin, the whole nine, like it was great. And then all of a sudden he gets traded, and we're like, whoa! And you see him, and it was just like it looked like the hurt that he had was like the equal to like losing a friend to like a death or a family member. Like it was bad, man. And they really messed that up. And the crazy part is, there were people saying, well, maybe they should trade for him. Like after the fact, do you think in free agency would they get him? Or maybe they need somebody who can play like him. And it's like, but y'all had him.
Well, that's
y'all
the thing.
and
It's
you
driving
traded him.
insane.
Yeah, that's the bad part.
It's unbelievable. Like you have him,
Yeah.
right? And he's your perfect fit. And here's the lesson that they never got. And this is the shame of it, right? All those Villanova kids, they were all prepped to blossom in the NBA because of the way they were coached. And they knew it. They all love Jay, right? Everybody loves Jay. In fact, I know was in Florida, just kind of ducking everybody because he's got everybody
Yeah.
on both things, right? Like so, you know how great a coach that Jay Wright is. That he develops kids. You had an advantage. They never took the advantage of the Villanova players.
Nah.
Like that's mind-boggling. Whether whoever the GM was at the time during this whole thing, you never took advantage of it. And you knew they were like Kentucky players. They're going to come out and they're going to blossom, right? They were right with Maxey. Maxey was a no-brainer. But all those Villanova guys, they should have drafted them or kept them.
Yeah. That you're exactly right. And the thing is, they were all, for the most part, older guys who developed at Villanova, because I mean, Brunson was a McDonald's All American, but the Hart, DiVincenzo, and Bridges, they were guys who basically Jay Wright nurtured them. He was hard on them. And they all turned out to be winners, man. They all turned out to be winners. And, it was just it's something like in your backyard that you expect a team to basically say, hey, we got the upper hand on this guy. But you know what? I felt like that a lot of times what happens is, you start doing the quote unquote star hunting that they said. And these guys, they were winners, but they didn't really fit the profile, meaning like they weren't the sexy guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yes.
he's not the lottery pick, or he's not this, he's not that. Now, but what he does is he provides depth. And you can say this about DiVincenzo, you can say this about Hart, and exactly Bridges, that they've all gotten better since they've been
Yes.
in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like they got better in college, and they
DiVincenzo's a
got better.
player.
Yeah, he
Like,
can play, man. He can play.
and
He can
he's
play.
not just a shooter.
Nah,
Like he blocked Joe's shot last night. He had a
yeah.
post. He dunked on someone last night.
And he has championship pedigree. That's the
Yes.
thing people forget, man. He
Yeah.
won a
Yeah.
chip. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People forget that. Like he was with the Bucks, and I remember the Bucks tried to trade him, and then they had to bring him back, whatever. But he has that pedigree. He won a championship in college and in the pros. So and that's the thing. They got the will to win. They know, and that's the thing that really concerned me about going into the game too. Was we were looking at it as if Maxey won the game, and he did win the game in Game 6, right? You can say he did, but Villanova, I'm calling Villanova, but the Knicks were looking at it like we made mistakes that cost us to lose the game, and cuz you've been doing this thing for a while, I'm serious, you know that the team that typically loses the next game, they come out with fire and energy, and you got to match that intensity. And those three guys came out with fire and energy, and the Sixers took them a while to match it. So that was a scary thing for me, because
Yes.
as close as that game was, those guys made mistakes down the stretch, and you knew that they weren't going to make those same mistakes, especially coming back to Philly. You knew that. You knew that.
Man, just great stuff. I could talk to you all. I love talking to you, brother. I just love talking to you, man. I enjoy it. Just we'll switch to the off season, but great work as always throughout this. Everybody should read you in the Inquirer, follow you on Twitter, Instagram. I mean, you just kill it, brother. So thank you.
All right, man. I see you rocking that Haddonfield. That's okay. You repping Haddonfield. Then you go to Paul VI.
Yeah. So my buddy is the coach, Frank Delano.
Oh, okay.
So
All
Frank is helping out Massimo,
right.
quarterback.
Okay. Oh,
So Frank's like a quarterback whisperer. He teaches at the Manning camp.
Oh, okay, that's what's up.
Yeah,
But
coach is
one
great,
day,
and
I know
he's
you gotta go.
fantastic.
I know one day you
I
gotta go, but
have,
one day my daughter, because we live in Washington Township now,
yeah.
right? But I said, man, I got to look into Paul the Sixth. A lot of people sent their kids there. I know you and a
How
couple
old
other
is
people
she?
went there. Oh, she's 13, but she got skipped, so she's going to Paul the Sixth next year. So
Wow.
we're
So,
kind of excited. Yeah,
oh, that's fantastic.
yeah,
My
yeah.
auntie now, my auntie's going to go to St. Augustine.
Oh,
So
okay,
he's in eighth
okay.
grade. So he's going to
Yeah,
go to St. Augustine
that's
next year.
great, man. That's
Yeah,
great.
so he'll
I
play
like that school.
football. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that's a great football school. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
we're excited, but I like to rep all the local, like whatever school. Like I always tell people, send me your high school like sports stuff.
yeah,
I'll wear
yeah.
whatever grade I wear. Grade school.
Nah, it's
Uh,
fire, man. I like it. I'm looking at it. I'm like, yo,
yeah,
that's a nice one right on it.
yeah. No,
It's
it's Frankie goes here. I said, wear it, give it to me. I'll wear it on the show. I love the local schools.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I got a Newman Goretti one. I'll wear whatever. Like I love it all. Like so,
yeah,
whatever school, Delaware. I mean, our area. I
yeah,
think it's important. I always liked our sports programs
yeah,
locally because that's where the grassroots it all starts. But
yeah,
God bless your daughter, man. That's
yeah,
beautiful. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. Well, I was looking up to
Congratulations,
your
man.
son too, man. Yeah, well, we'll see. You know what I mean? I went to Catholic school, and then you come out here in Jersey, and the public schools are really good. But it got to a point where I started doing the research, and I really like Paul the Sixth, for school for her. So
It's a great school. In fact, our dear friend Dan Klecko is coaching at Paul the Sixth.
oh, really? Wow,
Yeah,
that's
his son is
yeah,
a stud. He's going to be the third Klecko to play in the league.
yeah, that's crazy. It's funny. That's a great family too, because it's like I remember when I was in South Carolina, they had the Geathers family, like Jumpy Geathers.
Yes,
And,
yes,
and then yeah,
yes.
and they were like it was crazy. And I used to always like talk about they're talking about D Lyman, and it's like yo, they got a family in Philly. They started out actually in Chester, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah. And I said like blue collar, hard hat, real good, this and that. So I was excited when his father made it to the Hall of Fame, because he was a great player. But yeah, it's funny with three of them. That's phenomenal, man. I mean,
Yeah,
we're talking
he's
about.
at Paul the Sixth. He's going to his sophomore year.
Oh, okay,
He's
okay, yeah,
stud. Like just
yeah,
a great kid.
yeah,
Nate, he's a
wow,
great kid, just like his
yeah.
father. So
But is his father a coach there though? Or
yes,
did oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yo, it's crazy.
yeah,
That's what's up. That's what's
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go check him out.
I love it. Oh yeah, you got to do it, man.
Yeah,
You gotta go PVI. That's
yeah,
fantastic,
exactly.
brother.
All
I
right,
love
man.
you, buddy.
All
We'll
right,
see
love
you
you
soon,
too.
man.
Good talking to
All
you.
right,
Thanks, my
there he
man.
is, Keith Pompey from the Inquirer.